Hey class, hey students. Today's lesson is going to be on finding quotients involving decimals. So the first thing you've done now, the past 2 days, you've been working on dividing whole numbers. Now we're working on dividing with decimals. So in order to divide decimals, we must write the divisor as a whole number. Here's how we can do that. So for example, we have 1.55 divided by 3.14. Remember, the number that you're dividing by is your divisor. Okay? And that's what we need as a whole number. Okay, the decimal has to be at the end. There can be no decimals between numbers in the middle. So what you want to do is the number of zeros, powers of tens, the number of digits after the decimal place is how many you're multiplying by power of 10. So for instance, because there's one digit after the decimal place, you're multiplying it by 10. However, if you do it to one number, you have to do it to the other number too to keep it balanced. So you're multiplying 1.55 times 10 and you're going to get 15.5. So this new problem is going to be 15.5 divided by 34. And now you see this is a whole number. Okay. Another example. So 8.9 divided by 1.23. The difference in this problem over here is that there are two numbers after the decimal place. That's why you're multiplying by 100 this time. There's two zeros. You're multiplying by 100. That'll give you the whole number of 123. And whatever you do to one number, so you're multiplying 100 here, you have to multiply 100 to 8.92. So 8.9 times 100 is 890. So the rewritten problem is 890 divided by 123. Now let's do some example problems on this. And if you want to do them on your own first, you're more than welcome to. And then check your answers with me. So pause the video. So let's this first problem over here. We have 15.6 divided by 0.32. And remember, the divisor has to be a whole number. And that's this number right here. There are two digits after the decimal place. You're going to be multiplying this by 100. So 0.32 divided by 100 is 32. You're just moving the decimal place over to the right twice. Now you have to do the same thing to 15.6. You're multiplying 100 to 15.6. And when you move it two places, so you have 15.6 here. And you have to move this over 1, 2. What do you think happens here? You can't leave it empty. There has to be a number replacement in there. And in math, you're putting 0. Just like when you move it the other way, just like you're moving it the other way when you're multiplying decimals, when you're moving it to the right, you have to put a 0 in there too. So this is going to be 1,560. Question number B, 0.8, that's your divisor. And there is one digit after the decimal place, so this time you're multiplying by 10. 0.8 multiplied by 10, move the decimal place 1, is going to be 8. Now you're doing the same thing, multiplying by 10. You're going to move the decimal place over to the right one because the number is going to get bigger. So it's going to be 484.2. Next problem, two digits after the decimal place in your divisor, so you're multiplying by 100. You're going to move the decimal place 1, 2 places because there's two zeros. So it's going to be 195. And now you're doing the same thing to this. So it's going to be times 100. You're moving it two decimal places. Remember, just like B, you have to put a 0 here. So this is going to be 32,350. And D, there's one digit after the decimal place, you're multiplying by 10. So you have to move it over 1. you're going to have 234. Same thing here. Where is a decimal place here? Remember, if there's no decimal place in your number, that means it's at the end, and you're going to move that decimal place 1 over because you're multiplying by 10. So you're going to have a 0 here. So it's going to be 8,560. Now let's look at the rules for dividing decimals by decimals. So you have to, just like we just discussed in the last several slides, you have to change a divisor into a whole number by moving the decimal to the right. Now balance the other number by moving the dividend the same number of places to the right as we move the divisor. 3, move the decimal point into the quotient directly above the decimal point in the dividend. 4, divide the dividend by the divisor. This is what you've been doing actually in math class, okay, the last several days. You're just dividing it, long division. And insert zeros if necessary to hold place value. So let's do some example problems over here. So first, we have to rewrite it where the divisor is a whole number. And remember, the one that you're dividing by is your divisor. So because there's 2 digits after the decimal place, you're multiplying by 100. So we're going to move it over twice. It's going to give you 56. Now you're doing the same thing to the dividend. Multiplying by 100, that means 2 zeros. You're moving it over to the right twice. And that's going to be a 0 here. So you're going to have 6,720. Now you're going to do some long division here. So like we talked about yesterday, the divisor is always going to be on the outside. So you're going to have 56 on the outside and 6,720 underneath. So 56 doesn't go into 6. So we have to go to the next number. 56 goes into 67 1 times. So 1 times 56 is 56. You subtract. So this is going to be 7 minus 6 is 1. 6 minus 5 is 1. Bring down the 2. So how many times does 56 go into 112? Well, if you're not sure, do some math on the side. 56 times 2. 6 times 2 is 12. Carry the 1. 5 times 2 is 10 plus 1, 112. What do you look? So this is going to be a 2 up here. 2 times 56, we just did it, is 112. Subtract. Okay, and you get 0. Bring down that 0. How many times does 56 go into 0? 0 times. And that's your answer. So your answer is going to be 120. And make sure you're completing this in your notebook. And if you're doing this at on your own, make sure you complete the notebook and insert the photo in your slides. All right, next problem. Or maybe if you want to try it on your own, try it out on your own and pause the video and see if you get the same answer as me. So first things, is making sure your divisor is a whole number. So 2 decimal places after the decimal, which means you're multiplying by 100. You're moving it over twice. Doing the same thing here, multiplying by 100, moving it over twice, putting a 0 here. You're going to have 2,760 divided by 24. So divisor goes out on the outside, and the dividend goes underneath. So how many times does 24 go into 2? 0 times. You don't have to write that up there for the first number. 24 goes into 27 1 time. 1 times 24 is 24. You subtract. So 3, bring down the 6. 24 goes into 36. So you have 24, and then you multiply it by 2, it's going to be 48. So it's got to be 1, because that's too high. So 1 times 24 is 24. 6 minus 4 is 2. 3 minus 2 is 1. Bring down that 0. 24 goes into 120. We don't know. Let's work it out. So 24 plus 24 is 48. Plus 24. So plus 24 ends up giving you 2 and 72. Plus another 24 gives you 6 and 9. Plus another 24 gives you, 120. So this is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 24 times 5 is 120. And that's 0. So your answer is going to be 115. Let's look at some word problems now. Janice spent $3.22 to download 3 songs. On average, how much does she spend on each song? Round to the nearest penny, hundredth if necessary. So what is this saying? She spent a total of $3.22 to download 3 songs. You want to know on average how much she spent on each. So this is a division problem. You're doing 3.22 divided by 3. So this is not a decimal here. So that means it's a whole number, so you don't have to actually move any decimal places over. So that 3 is going to go on the outside because that's your divisor, and you're going to have 3.22. Now, when you have a decimal point in the middle of your dividend, what you want to do is put it directly above it. Okay, right above it. You're like kind of like lining it up when you're adding and subtracting decimals. You're going to do right above it. Now you just treat it like normal. So 3 goes into 3 one time. 3 times 1 is 3. Subtract. You're going to get a 0. Bring down that 2. You don't need to bring down that decimal here. You only need it up in the answer. So bring down the 2. 3 goes into 2 0 times. 3 times 0 is 0. Subtract. You're going to have 22, and then bring down that second 2. 3 goes into 22 7 times. 3 times 7 is 21. And you're going to have 1 here. And there's no such thing as remainders when you're dealing with money. So there is, because there's no other numbers here, we want to test out if that 7 is going to be bumped up or if it's going to stay at 7. So you're going to add a 0 here at the end, and you're really only doing it if you want to round, because you want to know what the number is in the thousandths place. So you're going to bring down that 0. 3 goes into 10 3 times. 3 times 3 is 9. And 1. So you only want to know what this is because you can't have, because it doesn't end at 07, it's not in, it doesn't go evenly. You have to actually check to see what the number after it is. So when you have 1.073, you are now looking at your hundredth place, your thousandths place, because you want to see if that 7 is going to be bumped up or if it's going to stay. So remember, when you're rounding, 5 or above gets bumped up, and anything below that, it stays. So 3 is below 5, so that 7 stays. So the answer is going to be $1.07. And if you want, try this last problem on your own, okay? Connor spent $15.97 for 4 movie downloads. Each download costs the same amount. How much should he spend on each one? Round to the nearest penny if necessary. So again, this is going to be $15.97 divided by 4. And since your divisor is a whole number, we don't need to move decimals around this time. Now divisor goes on the outside, and you're going to have 15.97. And remember, just like the last problem, you have a decimal in the middle of your dividend, you just put it right above it. So this is going to go right above it here. So 4 goes into 1 0 times, so you don't need to add that one. So 4 goes into 15 3 times. 4 times 3 is 12. You subtract these, you're going to have 30. Bring down the 3, and you're going to bring down the 9, have 39. 4 goes into 39. 9 times 4 times 9 is 36. So you bring down, this is 39 minus 36 is 3. Bring down the 7. 4 goes into 37. 9 times. 4 times 9 is 36. 1, and just like the last problem, remember, we need to see if that 9 is going to be bumped up or not over here. So you're adding a 0 here and then bringing that 0 down. 4 goes into 10 2 times. So this 2 over here, does that bump up that 9? Or does it keep that 9 there? In this case, the 9 stays because that 2 is below 5. So your answer is going to be $3.99. Okay, now I want you to do the exit card problems and then submit. Make sure you take images of these problems. Bye, everyone.